Hey, morning everybody. Yes, bring it up and bring it in because you are watching The Sweat presented by DraftKings, a Thirsty Thursday edition of The Sweat. We are now less than 24 hours away from the DK Sportsbook going live here in Massachusetts.
Let's go!
I absolutely cannot wait. It is going to be a celebration for the ages tomorrow. I'm Emerson Lante. This is Jesse Cofield. So we're going to get you geared up and ready for a smorgasbord of topics here in the next 55 minutes. We got some NBA picks, college basketball picks, because it's still conference championship weekend arriving, and EPL. Let's go, Premier League.
But let's start with NHL, okay? Just 3 games last night, only 2 games on Friday night. However,
What?
we have a loaded 11-game slate coming our way this evening. Thank you. So let's get into the top-priced options for your lineups. We have a trio here. DraftKings contributor Jeff Ulrich, NHL.com's Anna Dua, and RotoWire's Paul Bruno.
Woo!
Guys, let's start with who you're slotting into your lineups at center. So, Paul, McDavid and McKinnon are atop the center pricing for tonight's slate. McDavid, $9,900, McKinnon, $9,800. Which one would you rather roster?
You know what? I would rather go with McKinnon if you're asking me. Just want to pick one of those 2 guys, but they're way more expensive than I want to spend at center. There's some compelling options that are a lot cheaper. Let me cycle through them real quick. Carolina, Sebastian Aho costing only $6,800 for a date with Philadelphia. I think the 3 of us would have a chance to score points against Philly some nights. Ooh. He has 55 points in 55 games played. Well worth the value the way he's going lately. Second, Rangers star Mika Zibanejad lights up the Canadians on a regular basis. He's got a date with Montreal tonight, costing $7,200. Been slightly more productive than a point per game all season, and well worth the play tonight. And I think that those are 2 very good matchups that make more sense than spending it to the top of the board this evening.
All right, Jeff, Paul is saying he does not want to spend up at the center position. Are you on the same page, or do you like one of these top 2 price guys?
I just wanted to fully confirm that I could definitely score a point in an NHL game given the opportunity. I just need that opportunity.
Okay, pal.
Look, he's dead on. There's a lot of value at center tonight. I don't think there's any reason why you need to go to McDavid. We talked about this pre-show. The Bruins, one of the best, if not the best defensive team in the league. They are the best defensive team in the league. They have great goaltending. You got the Oilers on the road here. We can look down. I think Zibanejad is a great choice if you're just going to start lineups there. He's only $7,200. That's just going to be a great core play to build around. It's not going to cost you much. But look, we can go deeper here as well. I think Jack Eichel is actually kind of interesting. Tampa Bay goaltending has not been good. Eichel's extremely consistent. He's only $7,100. And how about a little Matchbox 20 to start Thursday here? And Rob Thomas at $4,400. I mean, again, we're taking on the San Jose Sharks, who just got pummeled by the Colorado Avalanche. Thomas playing a ton of minutes for St. Louis because they don't have any players right now. Obviously going to be part of their top 6 and penalty power play. So Thomas at $4,400, I think a good multi-point candidate for tonight too if you're looking for props. It's definitely a night where you don't need to pay up all the way at center.
Anna, do you agree with these guys? It's just not the night to spend all your cash at the center position?
Yeah, I'm not at least, and I'm going for a team that's going to be looking to make the playoffs this season, so they're trying to get as many wins as they can right now, and that's the Buffalo Sabres. And Dylan Cousins, for me, who's at $5,500, he's on a 3-game point streak right now with 2 goals, 1 assist, has 15 shots on goal across his last 3 games. He has the same amount of goals since the start of February as Tage Thompson. We talk about how crazy of a year Tage Thompson is having on that top power play unit for the Sabres with Tage Thompson, Jeff Skinner, Victor Olofsson, and Rasmus Dahlin, so Cousins is my pick.
All right, let's go to the wings and things department, shall we? Where, Jeff, your dude, David Pastrnak, sits at $8,800, and then you got Robertson at $600 less. So, who do you need more in your lineup, Mr. Ulrich?
Fortunately, Pasternak's facing the Oilers, who are going to just absolutely dominate that game, give them no chances. They don't give up any scoring chances, the Oilers.
Yeah, right.
Honestly, like, you could definitely pay up for Pastrnak tonight. I mean, you can pay up for him any night, but I'm going to talk more in the mid-range here as well. I think there's a good night to just what you call try and go balanced more for your lineups. We have some games here. We mentioned Dallas and Buffalo right off the top. I mean, the Sabres coming in with one of the worst penalty kills in the league. I think it's a great night to target Jamie Benn. I think it's a great night to target him in props, too, if you want, for an anytime goal. But $5,700, Ben's got 26 goals on the season. 10 of them have come on the power play. Again, he's looked good of late. The Dallas offense has just looked good of late as well. So $5,700 then, I think Ben is just a great upside target. And I think at the same price range, Drake Batherson at $5,500 He's done games without a goal, but he's got 3 shots or more in all 4 of those games. He's going up against the Seattle team, also has a bottom 10 penalty kill. The Senators are going to be absolutely fuming after getting shut out by the Blackhawks. I'm still not sure how that happened. I think Batherson is really good value there. Top 6, first line power play as well for Ottawa. So a couple guys in the 5K range there that I would really be looking to build around. You can put them in as values or build around them, whatever. But I like both those guys, Ben and Batherson.
Anna, how much money are you willing to spend on the wing tonight?
To be honest, not as much as this player deserves. I'm going with Vladimir Tarasenko, who's at 5,100 playing against the Montreal Canadiens. He's on a 3-game point streak as well. 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points in that span. This is the night to take the Rangers, guys, and any single prop on the board. Maybe even Patrick Kane gets a goal in for his new team for the first time. But I like the way Tarasenko's been playing. I like him on their second power play unit, which is sneaky good. They have Kreider, Zibanejad, Hedl, and Jacob Trouba with Tarasenko on that second unit, and Montreal is the 5th lowest penalty kill percentage in the entire NHL as of today. So I like Tarasenko tonight.
All right, Paul, which winger's in good form right now? Good enough for him to crack your lineup tonight?
Well, you mentioned the 2 guys off the top. They're 2 of the highest priced, highest expected values in terms of fantasy points, according to my pals at RotoWire headquarters. I'm going to slide over to a little bit lower on the list, going to Artemi Panarin. I like that Rangers-Montreal matchup. As I said earlier, he cost $6,100. Going to be featured on the power play, and his buddy Patrick Kane is wearing the colors too. So I think he's going to be excited to get some points between the 2 of them tonight. But if you want to go elsewhere, I'm also saying, look at what happened in St. Louis recently. They moved out Tarasenko and O'Reilly. Pavel Buchnevich has taken full advantage of that, and he's been on a real heater with 11 points in his last 6 games. That's going to cost you $5,800 for his solid matchup against a San Jose club that's been blasted for 22 goals against in their last 4 outings. And then finally, Alexander Svechnikov versus Philadelphia. I'm surprised Anna didn't touch on this one. $6,500 also makes a lot of sense for a guy who's playing winger wins on the top line next to Aho, and he's on another hot streak himself.
All right, let's move on to defense. Per usual, rather large gap between Roman Josi and the rest of the Blue Liners. So $8,600 for him. Where does the Nashville defenseman rank among your favorite guys tonight, Anna?
I mean, it's a great matchup for Nashville. Either him or Tyson Barrie are good ways to go, but I'm going to give Boston some love. I'm going with Hampus Lindholm, who's at 4,700 for my blue liner of the night. He has points in 4 of his past 6 games with 5 points in the span. He's on the second power play unit right now for the Bees with Tyler Bertuzzi, who I think could blow up anytime, David Krejci, Pavel Zacha, and Charlie McAvoy. So I like where he's playing in the lineup. The Bruins just such a solid team, so I'm going with Lindholm tonight.
All right, who you going with, Paul?
I like his teammate Charlie McAvoy playing first pairing minutes and on the power play point position against Edmonton. We're talking about a special teams in Boston that is number 1 on penalty killing and power play. McAvoy featured on the PP, and Edmonton's penalty kill not the best. And so $5,600 the price tag there. I like the matchup for Burns in Carolina against Philadelphia. $6,200 the price tag there for a guy who's going to play a lot of minutes and same offensive opportunities as McAvoy will get tonight. And then finally, Devin Taves sees his regular partner, Cale Makar, come back into the lineup a game or 2 ago, and they'll be paired against Los Angeles in a key game for both clubs, and I think Colorado's going to ride this tandem, so I'm going to take Devin Taves for $5,100 in that matchup.
All right, Jeff, looking at the blue line, who do you like here?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's just a good night to get some exposure to some of these top-end plays. We don't necessarily have to go all the way to the top. I mean, the Boston defense score certainly in play. I like going up a little bit to Miro Heiskanen as well at 6K. Again, Buffalo penalty kill, not great. Heiskanen just kind of does everything. He can certainly get you a double bonus on pretty much any night in terms of shots on goal and block shots. So 6K there. I really like loading up on the Stars tonight as much as possible. And in that same range, I mean, I think that you can go a little bit lower down and take a look at a guy like Noah Dobson as well. I mean, like the Pittsburgh Penguins, they just allowed 4 goals and just about blew it against the Columbus Blue Jackets. This is not a team who has been very solid of late defensively. So Islanders playing a little bit, more of just like a shutdown game, but I think Dobson is in play at the least. I really like this price range. We've kind of gone over most of the main plays, but it's really a night where I think you want to get some exposure to these guys over 5K because there's a lot of good defensemen and serious upside spots, I'd say.
All right, we got to go to value because, again, with 11 games tonight to choose from, there's a large menu of value on the menu. So who's your favorite value play, Jeff?
As classic. Look,
Yeah.
I think you got to look at the Seattle Kraken for a little bit of value. Jaden Schwartz, I would go right back here. I mean, you're talking about a top 10 offense in the Seattle Kraken, goals per game, really, really solid 5-on-5. And I think that's the one thing. I mean, I really like the over in this game as well, but just from a DFS perspective, I mean, there's so many cheap forwards on Seattle. And I think Schwartz, just with the way he's played, basically averaging over a point per game over his last 4 starts, taking on an Ottawa team who, I mean, again, like they have fairly solid special teams, but in terms of just 5-on-5 and the chances they allow, it's really not. I mean, it's a solid matchup. I think you can look to Oliver Borgstrom as well at 4K. So the Kraken, to me, really solid team that you could kind of, look for like some kind of cheap stack lower down. Yanni Gourde as well at 3,600. So Kraken all over the place. Jaden Schwartz definitely my favorite play of the bunch, but really like going to Seattle for some cheap stacks tonight.
Paul, how low down the board are you going to go for your top value play?
Well, I got a bunch, but I got to share this note. Not since 1979 have we seen one game that featured the top power plays and the top penalty killing unit in an NHL game. It was the game between Edmonton and the Islanders back in 1979, for those who want to look it up. But part of that leads me to Evan Bouchard of the Oilers making sense as a value play here. He plays power play on the top unit here, and that's a very strong one, obviously. $4,000 the price tag there. Jacob Slavin's been on a nice streak, his best of the year, maybe the best of his career. 5 points in the last 5 games played. $3,700 his price tag for that favorable matchup. Pavel Zacha for Boston on the second line. He's had a very nice year under the radar. $3,900 is a good price to pay for a guy I think who will be a factor tonight, well, along with the rest of his line mates there. And Thomas Tatar of the Devils has a nice assignment playing wing on the top line against Washington tonight for $3,800. Finally, Ivan Barbashev, newly moved to Vegas. He's featured on the top line alongside Jack Eichel. We mentioned how hot he is against a Tampa club that's been reeling in the last 2 weeks.
All right, Anna, bring us home with your top value play.
I'm going all the way down to the bottom of the board, and I'm looking at the other side of that Vegas matchup, and I'm going with Tanner Jeannot of the Tampa Bay Lightning. He's at 2,700 points in 3 of his past 4 games. The Lightning really wanted this guy, so they're going to hope that he can bring some spark into this team, and I think he will tonight.
All right. Good stuff, guys.
That's it. That's it for the hockey segment today.
Yes.
You guys all did tremendous.
Appreciate the time, as always, you three. All right, we're going to talk NFL in a minute here, but first, let's talk about yesterday's bracket results here. All right, The Sweat Fantasy Bracket Madness has continued, okay? So we got the G region here, second round, okay? So,
Wayne Gretzky ended up knocking off Willie Mays. So there's a perfect segue there going from
and
the
that was
hockey
actually
segment.
Wayne Gretzky got 83% of the votes. Not really. That was sort of a.
We
he
call
slaughtered
that.
him.
We call that a landslide.
A blowout. Magic Johnson over Westbrook, so a 5 over a 4.
Yeah,
Tiger 90% over Aaron Judge, and in a close one, number 6. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar over Messi.
Yeah. Let's see. None of these really shock me a whole lot.
Oh, I would think Messi would. I mean.
Yeah, especially recently, I guess, with all those records that he set, and he had that unbelievable World Cup. But I guess there's no recency bias. We had because our voters
are completely unbiased.
Exactly.
By anything.
And we also have a couple unbiased analysts joining us now as we shift gears to the NFL. So Jeff Ulrich stuck around. Pierce Dietrich has hopped in. Now we're going to go with a 1 versus 9 matchup before we get to NFL spin move here. First in the A region, gentlemen, LaDainian Tomlinson squaring off with Pele. Who gets your vote in this one, Jeff? Go ahead. I see you smirking.
Pele? Is it Pele or Pele?
Listen, tomato, potato. Come on, it's Pele.
All right. Well, I mean, look, maybe I just heard it wrong, but anyways, look, I mean, I feel really bad for Pele, anyways, because going up against perhaps the best fantasy player in the history of just fantasy sports, and LaDainian Tomlinson. I mean, give me a break here. 7 straight seasons with 300 or more carries. I mean, we haven't even got into the fact this is a guy who caught 100 balls in a season while going over 1,500 yards rushing. LaDainian, they used to create leagues where you couldn't draft LaDainian Tomlinson because he was such a cheat code for NFL fantasy. Look, Pele is fantastic. 1,279 goals in about 1,300 games. It's an amazing feat for soccer where most games end like 1-0. So yes, is Pele the greatest soccer player ever? Yes. But I mean, we're talking about a guy who was just, basically revolutionized fantasy football in LaDainian Tomlinson and how we think about the running back position as well and how we think about building around it. So no, LaDainian Tomlinson is an absolute freight train in this bracket contest. He's going to be hard to stop. Unfortunately, like my guy Nick Foles isn't there to stop him. So, but no, Tomlinson all the way here, man. Not even close.
All right. Is it not even close in your opinion, Pierce?
I think the real debate is how to say this. And I'm probably the worst person to ask with my southern roots.
I am the worst person.
No, Jeff Ulrich. Jeff Ulrich here mispronounces like Tom
accents,
Smith.
yeah, the Canadian and the guy with the southern not drawl. I wish I had a drawl. I just sound like an idiot half the time. Pele sounds wrong.
It's not right.
But
Pele?
Pele's not it.
Pele?
No.
It's Pele.
Yeah, it's not. It's not.
All right,
Pele.
dude, go ahead, Pierce.
Either way, yeah.
Pele.
No, I'm not the soccer expert, and it's hard to compare these two sports. It's just, I mean, this is the thing we're going to run into in this bracket constantly is some sports are more suitable for fantasy sports, and that's a clear advantage for Tomlinson. And Pele, I'm saying Pele. I don't care. 77 international goals. I think that's a pretty big deal, but I just don't have a point of reference. I don't know how to frame that. I do know that it's 11th best all time, and that's just probably not good enough. I know you can have some more modern soccer players that are putting the ball in the back of the net a lot more often than him. I guess he did change soccer, but that's not what this is. This isn't about how much someone influences sports or life. It's who's putting up the raw numbers, and it's clearly going to be LT.
All right.
Good.
We'll,
I'm glad
not talk about that anymore and make anybody say that name again.
No, producer's crying in the back.
Yeah, let's move to NFL spin move, okay? A lot of chatter going on. We got to talk about it, okay? So it looks like we're going to start with Lamar Jackson receiving the non-exclusive franchise tag from the Ravens. Interesting. How do you see this Baltimore saga ending here, Jeff? Because a lot of people saying pay the guy, and then a lot of people saying you can't give this guy a fully guaranteed contract. He hasn't been able to stay healthy.
And this whole situation just fascinates me from a lot of different perspectives. Look, a lot of people have thrown around the C word that maybe the owners have somehow colluded against Lamar Jackson, but you need to. It's just not as simple. You need to peel back the layers here, and I think that's what we need to do. What you're seeing right now from around the NFL is an overreaction to what happened last year. And it's the Deshaun Watson move. It's the Russell Wilson move. Those teams overpaid with guaranteed contracts for quarterbacks, and they combined for 12 wins. Yes, the NFL teams rightfully should be a little bit gun shy this year to be doing the same thing. It's not shocking that the NFL teams have tightened up a little bit and said, well, maybe we'll just won't give out $250 million lickety split this year. I don't think that that's necessarily a reason to say everyone's colluding. It's just a natural reaction in the marketplace when you see a couple teams struggle after giving out massive contracts that the next season, the teams are going to be a little bit more gun shy. So I don't think that that's necessarily like a huge shock. What I think is interesting is people just aren't looking at the downsides to Lamar Jackson. They're just saying this is a quarterback who's in his prime, who's won the MVP. Of course he's going to be MVP again. Of course he's going to be good. Lamar Jackson dipped. I mean, he has legitimately dipped in a lot of significant categories. Completion percentage dipped. His yards per attempt dipped as well, under 6 for the first time in his career. His QBR rating was under 60 for the first time in his career. These aren't necessarily great indicators. And yes, the injuries that he sustained, they haven't been like majorly serious or anything. We're not talking about tearing an ACL, but we have seen young quarterbacks get injured early in their career, and they have not been able to get back to the same level of performance. And yes, I'm going to throw out Carson Wentz as an example. I am not saying that Lamar Jackson is going to end up like Carson Wentz, or really that the two are that comparable. But Carson Wentz was a former MVP candidate, probably would have won the MVP the year where he blew out his knee, and he never got back to that form. It is conceivable, at the very least, that Lamar Jackson has some of the same issues going forward. I understand why he's not gotten a contract yet. I think there's a very good chance we're going to see a holdout from Lamar Jackson unless some random team decides to step up and finally give this guy an offer. So my call right now, I think this is going to drag on. I think you're going to maybe even see Lamar hold out going into the season.
Yes.
Pierce, it's a possibility. How surprised are you in the reported lack of interest in this guy?
Collusion.
Haley is the guy. No.
Haley.
Stop it.
I'm a little surprised. And to address Jeff's concerns, yes, Lamar Jackson has been down a little the last 2 seasons. He's dealt with injuries. He also doesn't have much of a supporting cast at all. His line has been injured. His running backs have been injured. His wide receivers are not very good, to say the least. He's got a decent tight end, but there's a good reason why his numbers fell off a little bit, and I think that he could quickly get back on track. So I'm not really worried about that. I am intrigued that no one is really jumping to get Lamar Jackson in a league where you have to have an elite quarterback, and they're very hard to come by. And here is one. You just need to cut him a paycheck and all things. And now, obviously, they got to give up draft picks, but that goes back to the point that I love this situation for everyone. If Lamar wants to leave, he can leave. If another team is desperate for a quarterback, well, he's right there. And the Ravens aren't just going to be left with nothing. They're going to get several draft picks in return that'll help them rebuild or maybe kind of nurse this thing along. I don't see the Ravens really competing much in the AFC North moving forward. I'm also a little bit of a Tyler Huntley truther. I think he can compete, at least put together decent results. Also, I like this situation for everyone, but I'm not going to get into the collusion part of it. If that's going on, then yeah, that's a bit of a problem.
Yeah. All right. Well, we had some actual news with Aaron Rodgers this morning. The Jets have returned from their meeting with him in California. They're confident they can get a deal done, get a trade done. Where would New York rank among your Super Bowl contenders if Rodgers lands in the Big Apple? Sorry, we had producer Samir in my ear. So Braxton Berrios was just cut to make some cap space, to make some room. Ooh, let's go. So this thing is probably going to happen. All signs are pointing to it. So going back to my original question, Jeff, where do the Jets rank among your Super Bowl contenders when Rodgers lands in the Big Apple?
When he does.
Honestly, they rank kind of high for me. I mean, I think this is a team that showed last year that they are essentially close. I mean, their defense was dominant at points. Not just dominant at points, it's basically dominant throughout the entire season. They went out and got perhaps the best draft pick of the entire 2022 draft in Sauce Gardner. It's not every day you see rookie step in and be the best cornerback in the league. That's significant. They've got a very dynamic backfield and Breece Hall and Carter back there as well. So all the pieces seem to be there for the Jets. I haven't even mentioned their dynamic wide receiver core, which they've just been drafting. This is a team that, it's basically done the opposite of, go out and sign a big-time quarterback. They've just been accumulating, building at all these positions. And yes, now it is time for the Jets to go out and get that final piece. They need to take care of the quarterback position. Aaron Rodgers to the Jets makes a ton of sense. Is this 100% going to work out? No, but what the Jets proved last year is they can win games without a good quarterback. They did it all season long. I think it's very ripe in that division potentially for the Jets to take a step up and at least challenge for the win. They're up there, absolutely, if they get Aaron Rodgers. I think Rodgers is the type of cerebral quarterback who can make the switch as well. So, yeah, I'm pretty bullish on here. All things pointing to this happening. Hackett being signed as well. I think that's probably a good indicator for the Jets and just a good, transition. I think what we see in these situations is just the quarterback just can't transition to a new offense. He may not even have those concerns with Hackett there. So, yes, I think this really helps the Jets, and I would put them as a serious contender for the Super Bowl next year.
You agree with that, Pierce? Because they're becoming a very popular Super Bowl bet right now.
I don't know if I would go that far. They're going to be pretty competitive. They're going to be a very fun team in fantasy sports. Berrios just hit the lottery. I mean, it's nice that it would have been good to play with Rodgers, but he is now entering a wide receiver free agent market where there's really no one to go to. He's been a solid wide receiver that's been underutilized and also playing with a bad quarterback. I think there's a lot of upside with Braxton Berrios, and other teams are going to see that. They're going to overspend on him. He could be kind of this season's Christian Kirk. So good for him. But the Jets are fine. They've got plenty of wide receivers and pass catchers, decent tight ends. Their running backs are deep. Their line is good. If it can stay healthy, you've got Hackett, the former Green Bay offensive coordinator, is going to have a familiar relationship with Aaron Rodgers. Jeff talked about the defense. Patriots are not really on the upward swing. We know that Buffalo is a very good team, but they're just not quite the killers that they need to be. And and even if it doesn't happen, him staying in Green Bay is not the worst situation. You saw that wide receiver core start to develop and gel. Maybe they add another guy to the mix. Green Bay was disappointing last season, but it wasn't like the ultimate disaster that I think sometimes we frame it as. Either way, I think things look good for Aaron Rodgers in 2023.
All right, good stuff, guys. Jets still plus 1,800 to win the Super Bowl. So jump on it now.
7th best on the board. I can't believe they are actually ahead of the Jags and the Chargers and the Ravens.
Yeah, it's craziness.
Anywho.
Good stuff, guys. Love the breaking news. Lots more to come in the show. But first, let's take a listen. Golick and Smetty had some time to talk about this Lamar Jackson situation and how they see it playing out. Take a look.
Tell everyone what this means. So he signed the non-exclusive franchise tag, which is $32.5 million this year. So now he's going to be able to go and talk to other teams, right? And the Ravens will be able to decide if they want to match it or let him walk, basically. Or
Exactly.
back. Yeah.
Right. And he didn't sign it. It was placed on him. So there's two. There's the non-exclusive and the exclusive. So non-exclusive is $32 million, and I'll get to what he can do with other teams. If they put the exclusive on him, which means nobody can negotiate it, I think it was about $45 million. So basically what everybody, and I think I would agree with this, though there is a caveat, is if they put the non-exclusive on him, he was going to be gone. Now, non-exclusive means that another team can sign him, and to sign him, they have to give up 2 first-round draft picks, and they have to come up with a contract. But then Baltimore can match that contract, and then Lamar has to stay with Baltimore. So here's my thought on that, Jess, is they have not been able to come to an agreement on anything, right? Nothing. So I wonder if Baltimore is basically saying, Lamar, go ahead. We're going to let the other teams do the work for us. If there's another team out there willing to pay you an ungodly amount of money, let's see it happen, and then we're allowed to match it. So since they couldn't come to an agreement, I think Baltimore is basically saying, all right, we'll let another team go do the work for us, come up with this monster deal, and then we can decide if we want to sign you to that, of which he has to go back and play for Baltimore.
But they're willing to let him walk, which I think is the
they
interesting
are willing,
part.
They're willing to let him walk, but they have the last say. That's the thing. It's like, go ahead, but it's like the yo-yo.
Right.
The string is still attached to my finger, and we can bring you back. If we feel we because they can't come to an agreement. And again, if he goes to another team, that team has to give him that salary and give him two first-round draft picks.
The alternative here was they could have signed him to the long-term deal that he wanted, but by all accounts, it doesn't sound like either side was close. Like Lamar Jackson wanted to be the highest-paid quarterback in terms of guaranteed money, and they didn't want to meet him with the guaranteed money. Is that right?
The whole thing here is every owner in the world is pissed at the Haslams in Cleveland.
All right, everybody, the debate on how to pronounce Pele's name continues. Welcome back. So let's bring in our NBA panel right now. And before we get into NBA zone coverage, where Nick Whalen and Gary Thorne are going to dish out their favorite DFS and sportsbook plays for tonight's 6-game NBA slate, let's get into. We saw the results earlier of Region A at the top of the show, right? Voting now is live for the second round of the T Regional. So right now, we have second-ranked Marshall Faulk versus 7th-ranked Kobe Bryant. What? How the hell is he a 7th seed? Who gets your vote for best fantasy player here, Garion, and why is it Kobe Bryant?
I might actually lean Marshall Faulk.
Yeah.
This is a peak versus longevity sort of conversation.
Okay.
But even that might be selling Marshall Faulk short. I mean, this guy was basically the best, if not the second best fantasy running back in football for 4 consecutive seasons. I mean, He led the league in scrimmage yards in back-to-back years, and then followed that up by leading the league in total touchdowns back-to-back years after that. He obviously had the 1,000 rushing and 1,000 receiving yards season back in his prime. I mean, look, Kobe's incredible. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think there was ever a point where Kobe was the best fantasy basketball player we had. Maybe the season he was averaging 35 points per game. But aside from that, there were always better options. Like LeBron was always a better fantasy basketball player within that span of time. There were better guys towards the end of Kobe's career. I just think in terms of peak, I might actually lean Marshall Faulk, although Kobe being a 7 seed is a little crazy.
Yeah, there's no right or wrong answer here, Nick Whalen. So who would you side with in this debate?
I think Garion laid it out really well. I think you have to lean Kobe because he had a similar peak to Marshall Faulk, but he did it for longer. And like Garion said, Kobe has never, in fact, been the number one overall player in fantasy basketball when you look at it on a per game basis. His game is really not that fantasy friendly, as a high volume shooting guard, but the NBA was a lot different during Kobe's peak years. So if you kind of translated what he was doing in like 2008 to now, it wouldn't be quite as appealing from a fantasy perspective, but the lack of three-point production, for example, Kobe was never a super, super high volume three-point shooter. You didn't need to be in 2004 through 2009, when Kobe was at his absolute peak. So, if you look back on RotoWire, you go to Kobe's player page, we go all the way back to 2004. In consecutive seasons, he ranked 7th, 2nd, 5th, 9th, 18th, 7th, and 6th in total fantasy value. So he was essentially a first-round player for a decade straight.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot
It
of
doesn't
time.
sound like
All
someone
right.
that should be a 7 seed. That's for sure.
Again, don't make me come on here and talk crap about Jeff Pratt constantly in his seating, because I will.
We know you will. All right, guys, let's jump into NBA zone coverage
Cool.
here. Nick Whalen, you're going to be dishing out DFS plays. Garion, you're handling the sportsbook side of things. 6 games. Nick, who is the center that you need to roster tonight?
So first of all, I don't mind going to Domantas Sabonis at 9,900, but doesn't have a great matchup against the New York Knicks, who've been playing really well. The defense is kind of back with Mitchell Robinson in action, so you could do it, but I would rather save $1,300 and go with Jaren Jackson Jr., who's at 8,600, goes up against the Golden State Warriors. They've basically just been an average team for most of the season. That's the case if you look at the last 5 games, the last 10 games. And the big thing with Jaren Jackson is, not only is he the best shot blocker in the league by a mile, but he's playing a ton of minutes. I mean, he's seeing 30-plus minutes routinely, which if you played fantasy basketball the last few years, Jaren Jackson, was always in foul trouble, had a lot of games where he's closer to 22 to 25 minutes. So as long as he's playing 30 to 35, a ton of upside every single night. Feels like he's a lock for 2 or 3 blocks and steals at minimum. We saw the Steven Adams news earlier today. He's not coming back this regular season. Brandon Clark is out for the year as well, so they need big minutes out of Jaren Jackson. And, of course, no Ja Morant tonight either, so should expect a little bit of uptick in the offensive ceiling for Jackson.
All right, Gare Bear, favorite money line play then on tonight's 6-game slate?
Yeah, this is a tough slate, I think, for moneyline bets, because there's a lot of massive spreads, and then there's a lot of teams where I just question what exactly their motives are. Do they want to win these games? It's unclear. So that's kind of led me to a position where I'm backing the Warriors on the road, which I don't feel great about. That's not generally something you want to do. They've proven time and time again they are not a good road team. However, this also isn't last season's Memphis Grizzlies, where they put together that stunning record without Ja Morant. With Morant off the court so far this season, they are being outscored. They have a negative net rating when he is not playing. And like Nick just outlined, it's not just Ja. I mean, this was a team that was really trying to find themselves after losing Steven Adams, which is not a sentence I thought I would say at any point during this season. So with Steph back, he dropped 40 in his last game. He's clearly not going to be playing under a minutes restriction. I think the Warriors should win this game. Do they? I don't know, because it's on the road, but they should win this game. So I'll take a -2.5.
All right, Nick, who at forward are you putting in your lineup? 2 dudes over 10K, but do you want to spend that much?
If I'm going to spend that much, it's going to be on Julius Randle, who is at exactly 10K tonight. And, I talked about this not being a great matchup for Sabonis, but it should be a pretty good spot for Julius Randle against a Kings team that plays pretty quickly. The Knicks are one of the slowest teams in the league, so you hope that this is a pace-up spot for New York. And Sacramento, I mean, despite climbing to number 2 in the Western Conference, they're 29th in the league in defensive rating over the last 10 games. So that defense has fallen off considerably. I think this should be a pretty good spot for Julius Randle. Some people might be jumping off of him. He's coming off of a really rough game against Charlotte earlier this week. But prior to that, averaged 31 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, and almost 5 threes per game over his previous 7 contests. So a lot to like about Randle tonight.
Gare Bear, an underdog you are backing to cover the spread tonight. Only 2 games have spreads bigger than 4 points.
Yeah, we're mirroring each other very nicely here. I'm going to take the Knicks plus 2.5. I mean, there's only so many times you can say the Knicks are the best road team against the spread in the NBA, but the Knicks are the best team against the spread on the road in the NBA. They are actually, I mean, it's stunning. They're 32-11 ATS, their last 43 road games. It's amazing what they've been able to do on the road. I really think that was like a trap spot times a million against the Hornets in their loss. Just a game where they were feeling themselves. They didn't take the Hornets seriously enough, and they happened to get caught on a sleepy night. I don't think that happens against the Kings. I mean, the Knicks are also 6-0 ATS their last 6 games against teams above 500. So generally speaking, they've been taking care of the best in the NBA so far this season. Best net rating in the NBA across their last 10 games. If you do want to wait and see if Jalen Brunson's going to be available for this game, I understand that completely. But that will move this line, and I'm willing to take them at 2.5 right now.
All right, Nick, which guard do you want to slot in? Klay Thompson, 8,300, and let's see. He has broken the 20-point mark in 3 straight.
Yeah, I don't mind Klay. You can look at Jalen Brunson, like Gary just mentioned, if he plays. Of course, you want to wait and see. He's at 8,400. Always going to be a little bit of trepidation there, even if he is ruled in. You do wonder if the minutes might be limited, but you're getting a pretty good price there. I don't mind paying up for Tyrese Halliburton if you want to go that direction. He's at 9,900. Has maybe the best matchup in fantasy right now against the Houston Rockets. It's either Houston or the Spurs. And I think this is kind of a perfect situation because I don't know if the Pacers are good enough to blow out the Rockets. So you might see Halliburton play like 35 to 40 minutes against one of the worst defenses in the league. Houston's 27th in defense over their last 10, though they have slowed down a little bit. That's not ideal from a pace perspective, but still, this is a team that has really poor guard play. I think there's some defensive potential for Tyrese Halliburton tonight. The Rockets gave up a ton of threes. They gave up a ton of assists. So a lot to like about Halliburton. If you want to save a little bit more money, Mikal Bridges is guard eligible on DraftKings. He's at 8,500. Pretty bad matchup for him against the Bucks tonight. Tough situation, but no Nick Claxton, no Cam Johnson, no Spencer Dinwiddie, no Royce O'Neal for the Brooklyn Nets on the front end of a back-to-back. So I think you kind of have to look at Mikal Bridges in that situation.
All right, Gary, and what's your early lean here on a point total for tonight?
Yeah, I'm just going to keep riding the under with the Charlotte Hornets. They are an unders machine at this point. I continue to not understand how their games are always with a total in the 225, 226 region to 225 right now against the Pistons. Across the last 10 games, these are the 2 worst offenses in the Eastern Conference by a pretty considerable margin. Odds are one of these 2 teams is not going to carry their weight tonight. There's a reasonable chance one of these 2 teams does not score 100 points tonight, which would make reaching this total very, very difficult. In particular, the Hornets, in that same 10-game span where they have the 2nd worst offensive rating in the NBA, they have the 2nd best defensive rating in the NBA. They've been amazing to the under as of late. They are 16-5 to the under in their last 21 games. The Pistons are 5-2 to the under in their last 7 games. I would even consider betting the under here if this total was like 219, let alone 225.
Love it, guys. Thank you for getting us ready for tonight's NBA slate. And I don't know if you know this, but Boston is buzzing. The boys are buzzing because DraftKings is launching in our home state of Massachusetts tomorrow. Sports betting, we are here. And there's plenty of ways for you to get in on the action.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa! Big news! DraftKings Sportsbook is coming to Massachusetts. You'll be so dialed into every play that you forget to eat your wings. You made my wings cold, DraftKings. Flailing your arms like you can disrupt the free throw. Miss, fool! And a home run will have you crying like it's the birth of your child. I'm so happy.
DraftKings Sportsbook is coming to Massachusetts. Download the app now to get $200 in bonus bets when we go live. Action's so good, why bet anywhere else?
Yeah.
Yo, DraftKings, y'all got the most ways to bet on NBA players. I'm hyped. Hitting props, that's my dog. Stack up buckets, blocks, and boards on my boy? Or superstar going one-on-one against another superstar? Oh, it's on. And all these bets are on my man's dedicated page? Now you spoiling me, DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and bet $5 to win $150 in bonus bets on your team to win. Action's so good, why bet anywhere else? That's my move. He used my move.
This season, DraftKings Sportsbook is your place to bet on the greatest sport on ice. There's so many ways to get closer to the game. And with this latest offer, you can win big. Now that is deserving of some victory stick taps.
Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, sign up with the promo code, and take advantage of this great offer.
And get in on the action with an official sports betting partner of the NHL.
You know, betting without a game plan is a little like skating a giant ramp without helmet and pads. I wouldn't risk it. And I wouldn't bet without a game plan. DraftKings Sportsbook provides you with tools to set a realistic budget and time limits, so you're ready to bet responsibly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook and Casino apps to learn more about how you can practice safe bets.
With DraftKings Daily Fantasy Sports, you can play for millions with a lineup full of big NBA stars. Maybe you throw in a three-point specialist that's been around the league, seen a thing or two. You know, if you want. Download DraftKings and play for your share of millions. Action's so good, why play NBA anywhere else?
Welcome back to The Sweat. Jesse Cofield and Emerson Latzia here with you, and we have two special guests joining us as well. DK Nation's Colin Sherwin joining us from Vegas. DraftKings Julian Edla joining us from his basement. Not in Vegas. That's fine. All right, guys.
That's why he's so happy. Look at the joy on his face.
So much joy.
I mean, you could argue, there's a lot of TVs over to my right. You could argue that my basement is a place that you can get as much action as Vegas.
Hey, this is not that kind of program, pal.
Okay, all right.
Sports bets.
All right, yep.
Action on the games.
We know, but all
Your
of you,
mind, Emerson, is
stop
a sewer.
saying words.
It's
Don't
not
let
me.
don't let any more words come out of any of your mouths. All right. Top plays during conference tournament week. Be quiet. Colin, favorite moneyline bet in Power 5 conference play today. What is it? Let us know.
Well, boy, buddy, I got a lot of action coming in, and it's all in the Power 5. I really like Kansas -3. I don't care if Bill Self's there or not. Look, they're probably sick of listening to that guy yell at them. He's yelled at them all season. I hope he's okay. I hope he's in good health. But I really like Kansas -3. This line is bad. This line was bad when it came out. I don't understand why it's so low. I guess there's the theory that like Kansas doesn't really need to win to get a 1 seed, and they might just punt the tournament. They're not going to punt in the quarters though. So yeah, Kansas -3. They're the best team. They're going to win. I've got them to win the national championship. I don't know why they're only laying one possession here.
A little wild. What do you think, Julian?
Yeah. Let's see. This is money line or spread that we're doing first.
Money line.
Money line. I'll go right to noon. Tips off in 17 minutes. I played Michigan in my article that I put out yesterday at -140 on the money line. I think it is since like -155-ish. Kind of steep. Lay the 2.5 if you want. But yeah, let's get the day started right. I'm going Michigan over Rutgers. They've lost 2 heartbreakers in a row, but they've covered 5 in a row. They had won 6 of 8 before that. Rutgers is coming in on a skid. Michigan went to Rutgers, beat them by 13 as 5.5-point underdogs. Michigan needs a run in this Big Ten tournament.
Jules, which Power 5 team is going to cover in their game today? And why is it Pitt against Duke? Put a smile on Samir's face.
Yeah, Samir and I were texting about that one last night. Opened 3.5, and that spread has since doubled against Samir's Pitt Panthers. It's not going to be them. I'll give you an underdog on the spread, though. UNC is +2.5 against Virginia. UNC, like Michigan, really needs this win against a Virginia team that they recently beat down at home. This is in Greensboro, North Carolina. The reason the number is what it is, Armando Bacot rolled another ankle last night, as he's done throughout his college career. I think he's going to be just fine in this game, so I'm comfortably backing UNC in a must-win game.
Colin, Power 5 team to cover today.
Yeah, sorry, I got my money line messed up. That's Kansas minus 190. That's free money today. Take that. But I really like against the spread. Miami's covered. Look, Miami's going to win the ACC tournament, and you can still get them. I believe it is now 7. Is that what y'all have right now? This opened like 5, which is like way low, and I would play this comfortably up to even 8 or 9. Miami's the best team in this tournament. They're going to run. They didn't have to play yesterday, and their opponent did. Sometimes this thing we can make it overcomplicated. No need to do that here. I really like Miami today. I think they're going to roll, and I do think they're going to at least get in the mix for like a 2 seed by winning the ACC tournament here.
Colin, which mid-major matchup are you on?
There's a few today. I'm going to call my beloved alma mater in the American Athletic Conference a mid-major because they're certainly not a top 5, top 6, even top 7 conference this year. So opening game of the day is South Florida, and they are only laying 3 somehow. Let me make sure that is correct. Yes, they're playing East Carolina and laying 3. Look, I don't bet on my alma mater a lot. I don't think they're very good, but Brian Gregory, their head coach, has been terrific in conference tournaments going back to his time at Georgia Tech. USF has played really well in tournaments. I believe their cover rate in conference tournaments under BG at USF is about 78%. So yeah, give me the Bulls here. Believe me, I'm just setting myself up for heartbreak here because then when they don't cover, I lose twice because then my team loses and my money loses. But I really like USF laying the 3 here, so I'll take the Bulls.
All right, Jules, what do you like here?
No mid-majors because the big dogs are out to eat today, and I'm focusing on them. The games are getting good now. We get real teams throughout the day. So here's 3 teams I think that you can use in a money line parlay. Pick 2 of them, whichever 2 you want. Miami, like Colin said, I think they're getting through there against Wake that had a dramatic game yesterday. Duke against Samir's Pitt Panthers. Number grew too much to back them on the spread, but I think they're going to win that game. They're playing well right now. And UConn playing on their MSG quote-unquote home floor against a Providence team that is 6-8 when they're playing away from home this year. They got smoked the last time at UConn. Pick your 2 there, put them into a money line parlay. Those teams are all going to get through.
Jules, call an upset for us today.
So I used UNC plus 2.5. I think that they beat Virginia outright. The other dog that I bet is K-State plus 2 against TCU. Lampkin didn't travel with TCU. I know Colin loves TCU. I think that K-State, if I'm taking the plus 2, I think they have a good chance to get that done.
Colin, have at it.
Oh boy, for me today, I'm usually a dogs guy. I love dogs. I think today's going to be a lot of chalk. If anybody was going to like jump up at it, say what?
Agreed. It's a favorite stay.
Yeah, if it's a favorite stay, but if I'm going to have anybody jump up, this UConn team is just so damn inconsistent. Give me Providence. 7 points is too many. Look, PC plays great. They play really hard. They can compete in terms of a physicality level with UConn, and I think they can get it done. Look, this could be Ed Cooley could totally make a run here. Providence is in the tournament, but there's a hatred between these 2 schools that's pretty palpable. That might keep it close. 7's just too many here.
All right, gentlemen.
All right.
That's good stuff.
Yep.
I really love it.
You both.
Everything you just said.
We really do. All right, that's good.
Did you love it more from Vegas or from Julian's basement?
Vegas, for sure.
Action's in my basement. Come on by.
All right, hey, I'll text you after the show.
I hate you guys so
Great.
much. All right.
What do we have? Premier League picks coming up.
But the Sweat Fantasy Bracket Madness does continue. We're on Region O right here.
These are the results.
Wow. I mean, there's going to be some tough matchups here. Barry Bonds
knocking off
beating out
Bobby
Orr. Yeah.
Which is not going to make many people here around Boston very happy, but this will.
Yep, Larry Bird. But now Larry Bird has to face off against Barry Bonds. Man, oh brother. Oscar Robertson, the OG triple-double man, going up against Connor McDavid, revolutionizing NHL.
Who's in town tonight.
Yep.
To face the Bruins.
It is crazy.
I went ahead earlier too, and I ripped through the polls, which are available now on the DK Nation Twitter account, guys. And you can go ahead and vote right now. LT or Pele, Pujols, Ohtani, Serena, Shaq, LeBron, Novak Djokovic. So go ahead and hit that up right now. But if you're sticking around for Premier League picks, you're in the right place.
Soccer
because,
guys. Speaking
Yes,
of Pele.
let's go. Speaking of Pele. Hey, how do you pronounce it, Chinmay? Pele?
I've heard several iterations of it, actually.
Is that on
I've
this
heard,
show?
I've heard Pele, I've heard Pele. He's a legend, so, pronounce it any way that you would like to honor him.
Well,
I've heard several different iterations. I'm not really sure.
Well, it's damn good to have you here. It's damn good to have RotoWire's AJ Schultz here. Leicester, Chelsea. Let's get right to it. What's your play in this one, AJ?
Well, I know Chinmay wasn't very high on Chelsea last week, but they looked fairly decent against Leeds and then looked even better against Dortmund on Tuesday. So granted, it's a quick turnaround here for them, but I feel more confident about Chelsea heading into this matchup, especially with Leicester having lost 4 of their last 5. I'll take Chelsea straight up on the money line here. Comes in at even money, plus 100. I think it's worth the risk, even with them being on the load. I'm going to trust Chelsea in this one.
All right, Chinmay, he's going straight up. He's going money line. What's your move here?
Yeah, I think Chelsea must watch this show because I said you got to fade Chelsea until they prove me wrong, and then they proved me wrong twice on on the first match day in the Premier League and then in the Champions League. I do agree with AJ. I think there's value on Chelsea at plus 100 on the money line. I think that's a really good play with Leicester really struggling. But I do think that Chelsea's recent goal scoring is a little bit of a mirage. So I still like under 2.5 goals on the total in this game, comes in at minus 120. And I still like Chelsea under 1.5 goals as a team, which comes in at minus 130. Actually, that Dortmund game was the first time in the calendar year that Chelsea had scored more than 1 goal in a game, just any game across all competitions. So I still don't believe that the offense is going to be there, but I don't really count on Leicester doing anything in this matchup. So I'll still ride with Chelsea here. They've turned it around at least over the last 2 matches.
All right, potentially the closest matchup of the weekend, Everton versus Brentford. Which way are you leaning here, Chinmay? I mean, Brentford's on a heater, but Everton facing relegation again, so they're kind of in a fight for their life here.
Yeah, this is a tough one for AJ's boys. I like Brentford over 1.5 goals, which comes in at plus 180. I also like Ivan Toney as an anytime goal scorer at plus 140. I think he has like more than half of Brentford's goals or somewhere close to there. So if anyone's going to score on Brentford, Toney's probably going to get in on the action. Everton have really struggled to put the ball in the back of the net. So I don't hate the idea of taking Everton under 0.5 goals. Comes in at plus 225 on the DK Sportsbook. But I like Brentford to really get the job done here and keep pushing for a potential spot in Europe next year.
Yeah, AJ, I mean, Everton 18th on the Premier League table, 22 points. Then following Saturday, they've got Chelsea, Tottenham, Man U. It's tough. It's tough. This is a must-win.
Yeah, it absolutely is, which as any Everton fan can tell you, that probably means realistically you should be betting on Brentford because they always manage to mess these ones up. Maybe I'm just a little bit bitter, but I think your best option here might honestly just be draw at plus 225. If you really want to take a side in this matchup, I think you look at the draw no bet lines. I'm going to go with Everton at minus 115 on that draw no bet, as much as it pains me to think, but certainly you would be justified. I think you get Brentford right about the same thing, minus 110 on the draw no bet. So either one of those are in play. The double chances are just too far into the negative value. So either draw if you're really going to look for value, or pick one of the 2 sides, flip a coin, and take one of the draw no bet options.
All right, of all the other matches on the menu this weekend here, AJ, give us one you're feeling. Like, give me a bet that you're going to be hammering.
Well, it's been a really tough start to the month of March for Spurs. Tottenham, had the loss to Sheffield United in the FA Cup. Then they lose to Wolves last weekend. And then Wednesday's draw, which ultimately turns into a loss against AC Milan in the Champions League. I think they're vulnerable. And this is a Nottingham Forest side that is better than a lot of people give them credit for. I think they've just needed time to really gel after, almost completely overhauling their squad the last 2 transfer windows. So Forest being like a ridiculous plus 650 on the money line, I think that's in play. If you want to take a little bit less risk, you maybe look Forest double chance at plus 190. The draw no bet comes in at plus 475. But I think for me, I'm going to take the huge value and go plus 650. I think this is a Spurs side that could easily be upset in this one.
Chinmay, which game are you looking at?
Yeah, I'm not quite going that high on the value for the underdog, but I do like Aston Villa on the money line at plus 235 against West Ham. This is a West Ham team that once again is fighting relegation. Aston Villa, I know they've struggled a little bit. They won their last 2, but had 3 losses before that, but they've looked really good even in those losses. I also like Ollie Watkins as an anytime goal scorer. Comes in at plus 200. He didn't score last week, but had scored in 5 straight matches prior to that. So I like Watkins to get back on the board, and Aston Villa on the money line as an underdog against West Ham.
All right. Sweaty boot time. Ooh. Favorite EPL sportsbook play for this weekend's action? Yes. Chinmay, who gets the sweaty boot?
I'm going back to the well on this one. I had this a few weeks ago, and it hit for me. It's a North London parlay once again. Give me Tottenham and Arsenal as a money line parlay. Comes in at plus 125 on the DK Sportsbook. I think both sides get the job done this weekend.
All right, AJ, who's getting your sweaty boot? Let's go.
Well, at the risk of Bournemouth costing me again 2 weeks in a row, I'm going to go Liverpool minus a goal and a half here at plus 115. I want to take really some of their goal scorer props here, but they change around who starts so often that you kind of have to wait on those until those lineups come out. So instead, I'll just take Liverpool to cover a pretty low spread at minus 1.5 goals at plus 115. We saw what they did last weekend to Man U. I think we'll see some more of that here, but betting against Bournemouth didn't work last week. Hopefully it pays off this week.
You two have been absolutely tremendous. Looking forward to seeing the tweets this weekend and how these sweaty boot picks end up playing out. That's a show, everybody. Thanks, everyone, for watching. We are back here tomorrow morning. Huge day in Massachusetts. Woo! DK Sportsbook going live mobily at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Let's go. Hammer away. We'll see you then because the party will be on. Oh, my God, yes.
Okay, bye.